Welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Wednesday, July 18. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. The business community is worried about the recent spate of lawlessness and has urged Prime Minister Mottley to urgently intervene. President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce, Edward Clark, told today's luncheon at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center that crime is a major threat to the country and it must be arrested before it gets out of control.
These actions continue to erode the core values of our society and they threaten to undermine the lives of all of our people. These Wild West type activities, if not stopped immediately, will negatively impact the economic gains that we have achieved through our cultural events and tourism gains for all of Barbados. Barbadians on a whole are extremely concerned about the trend, and there needs to be a comprehensive strategy to have illegal guns removed from our streets in Barbados. This is a must do. It must happen.
Prime Minister Mottley gave the assurance that government is ready to respond. She said Barbados cannot withstand an explosion of gun violence and the crime scourge will be tackled head-on.
I'm happy to report to you that the National Security Council met yesterday during lunchtime, instead of us having lunch, with the Attorney General, myself, and the Minister of Home Affairs, meeting with the Commissioner of Police, the Control of Customs, and the other relevant officials. Our role is not to be operational, but our role is to ensure that the resources and the cooperation are there, and we are satisfied that there are things that have to be done. In the budget, we spoke about the need to reduce the backlog, and we made resources available, which will be operational, I'm told, by September, even in the absence of a functioning court space in the main court building as that is repaired. Why? Barbados cannot have 10,000 cases in a backlog. But realistically, we can't treat the 10,000 at once either. But what we can treat to is all the murder cases and all the cases of shooting with intent, and then come down the hierarchy with rape, burglary, and robbery, or robbery, rape, burglary. We've committed to that. And we've also committed to having every case from July 1st last year heard expeditiously, and then having every new case heard within 6 to 9 months in this country.
Opposition leader Joseph Atherley is calling on government to clear the air on a number of dismissals and departures from statutory corporations in recent weeks. At least 3 employees of the National Housing Corporation, including General Manager Lynette Napoleon Young, was sacked last month, along with Human Resource Manager Shiona Kelman and Attorney Tony Jones Patterson. And there are reports of an impending shakeup at the state-owned Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. Atherley told Barbados Today that the Mottley-led administration must assure Barbadians that workers were not being victimized.
I frankly have not looked very closely at the goings-on with respect to these shakeups. I wait further to hear what is behind and involved with all of this. But I don't think the guys that I know over there are naturally disposed to that kind of a victimization. If it turns out that it is, then we will have to deal with it. I really would like to see us have a political culture in Barbados which experiences transformation to the extent that not only would there not be this type of victimization, but that people would not even want to move to a point where they believe that is going on. I think sometimes the political realities would suggest that certain changes have to be made. I think people who come into positions of endeavor, employment, and who understand from the outset that my role here is a political role, would understand that they run the risk that with the change of political administration, then I may not have that role anymore. I think when it comes to the public service, I think once people behave in a disciplined and dutiful way, they should not be touched, whatever the administration.
The National Conservation Commission has no plans of relaxing efforts to clear the island's beaches of the sargassum seaweed. Speaking on the sidelines of Operation Save Our Lives today, NCC General Manager Keith Neblett told reporters the Commission has stepped up its efforts to keep the pesky weed at B.
Bathsheba, because of the where it is, every year what we find is that it comes in and go out very quickly. So as opposed to the South Coast, in terms of right on the Atlantic, where the heavy surf tend to bring it out and carry it back quite readily. So we do deploy people there when it really gets out of hand. At Bath, we have a lot of issues on there with the sand is very loose, so we have to use a lot of manual labor because the use of equipment is taking out too much sand. I know that they've tried using some of the grabbers at some of the areas at Skeets Bay, but those areas tend to naturally operate by the side. I remember 3 weeks ago up at the crane, it was unbelievable in terms of the amount of seaweed was there. About 5 days later, not peace was there because of it on the Atlantic. It tends because the surf tends to move it quickly. When it moves from those areas, it brings it right on the south coast, and that's where then we have to get our staff to go in and move it.
Ahead of the staging of Rise, Soca Kingdom featuring Marshall Montano and Super Blue at Kensington Oval on July 31, organizers are assuring patrons they won't have to worry about security. At a press conference to launch the big event today, Kirk Brown, one of the producers of Mastermind Creative Productions, the organizers of the show, updated the media and sponsors on preparations, and he said that there will be military-like security. In recent weeks, a number of party events have been marred by violent incidents, but Brown made it clear they won't be taking any chances.
We're looking at every, not in any way speaking negatively about any show, but we look at past mistakes of other productions. Setting up earlier, bigger VIP, better infrastructure, better gates, lines for the fans and the patrons to come in, accessibility to washrooms, facilities. It may seem small, but you've been there. Ensuring that nothing runs out.
As Kirk said, we look at, stuff that were done in the past and just see how we're able to make it a little bit better. For me, I focus on a lot of infrastructure, logistics, systems, procedures, in order to be able to make things work efficiently. As Kirk said, you have some of these small items which can turn into very large problems.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional happenings, a prolonged dry spell is taking a toll on farmers in Jamaica. Shimala Mitchell of Television Jamaica has been talking to farmers in the parish of St. Anne's.
Sunny sky, parched earth, dry fields. Signs hundreds of farmers in St. Anne don't want to see, but are getting used to, as the forecast for a lower than normal rainfall into September extends the dry spell gripping the parish in recent months.
Boy, I tell you, this one will be worse. If we add up sweet pepper, tomato, and the yam, them can get to bear the right and proper way.
K Valley has over 100 farmers. When it rains in these parts, the area is easily flooded. Too little rain or none is just as bad.
If you even try to put the grain in the earth, it cannot grow because the drought keep it down.
Going deeper into the parish, we saw clear signs that the impact is greater. Coffee Ridge is another farming community. Those who reside here depend on rainwater harvesting.
We don't have a parish tank here. We don't have nothing here to contain water more than a little black jug. So you have a little 600 gallon. By the time I look, it's 2 weeks.
Last year, this time, we used to have things to sell, but this year, I don't have nothing to sell.
The dry spell also means big losses. Farmers and vendors are equally affected.
Further afield, fight on, don't despair. That's the statement that kept the 12 boys and their soccer coach who were trapped in a flooded Thai cave complex. Members of the Wild Boars team shared some of the details of their ordeal during their first public appearance, aired on national television.
Reliving their ordeal in public for the first time since being rescued from a flooded cave in Thailand. The 12 boys from the Wild Boars soccer team, along with their coach, described what it was like being trapped underground for over 2 weeks.
I was really afraid, not to be able to return home.
The team was found squatting in a flooded chamber several kilometres within the cave complex and described the moment 2 British divers discovered them as magical.
We heard some noises of people talking, so we told each other to be quiet and listen to the noise. We weren't sure, so we listened, and it turns out, yes, it's true. I was surprised.
They left the Thai hospital they've been recuperating in earlier on Wednesday to travel to the news conference that was broadcast nationwide. Fears had been raised about what the media attention could do to their mental health. So the group, aged 11 to 16, and their 25-year-old coach were asked a series of questions journalists had submitted in advance. Since being rescued in a huge international effort last week, the boys have gained an average of 3 kilograms or 6.6 pounds. They'd eaten before they entered the cave system on the team-building exercise, but took no food with them. Authorities say they are now physically and mentally strong enough to return to normal life.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We are also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.